The fall of the Berlin Wall in November of 1989 stands as a momentous event in history, symbolizing the end of a divided era and the reunification of Germany. However, what began as a routine press conference inadvertently led to the collapse of the wall due to a bureaucratic accident and miscommunication. Join Facts First as we present, was the fall of the Berlin Wall an accident? The building of the wall. The creation of the Berlin Wall by the German Democratic Republic, or GDR, in 1961 served as a physical and symbolic division between East Berlin, under Soviet control, and West Berlin, allied with the United States, UK, and France. The primary purpose of the wall was to halt the mass migration of East Germans to the more prosperous West, which was seen as a threat to the communist regime. The decision to construct the Berlin Wall came after years of increasing tensions between the two blocs. As East Germany struggled with its economic challenges and political dissent, a growing number of its citizens sought refuge in the West. The mass exodus of skilled workers and intellectuals presented a significant blow to the GDR's stability and legitimacy. In the early hours of August 13, 1961, barbed wire barriers were erected to seal off the border between East and West Berlin. Over the following days and weeks, the temporary barriers were replaced by a formidable structure that eventually became the Berlin Wall. This concrete barrier, fortified with watchtowers, guard posts, and a death strip in between, stood as a physical embodiment of the division between communism and democracy. The construction caused widespread shock and outrage amongst the international community, particularly in the West. It sparked protests and condemnation as a symbol of repression and a violation of human rights. Families were separated, and countless lives were forever impacted by the division enforced by the wall. It stood for almost 3 decades as a stark reminder of the ideological and political divisions of the Cold War. The lead-up to its fall. The fall of the Berlin Wall on November 9, 1989, was the culmination of a series of events and circumstances that led to the end of the division between East and West Germany. Several factors played a crucial role in creating an atmosphere of change and eventually led to the dismantling of the wall. One significant factor was the widespread dissatisfaction and unrest among the citizens of East Germany. Years of economic stagnation, political repression, and limited personal freedoms had left many East Germans disillusioned with the communist regime. This discontent was further fueled by the desire for greater economic opportunities and access to the political and social freedoms enjoyed by their Western counterparts. In the late 80s, a wave of protests and demonstrations began to sweep across East Germany. Citizens demanded political reforms, freedom of expression, and an end to the oppressive regime. The protest movement gained momentum, with thousands taking to the streets in cities like Leipzig, demanding change and calling for democratic reforms. The situation was compounded by the political climate of the time. The Soviet Union, under the leadership of Mikhail Gorbachev, had initiated a policy of glasnost, openness, and perestroika, restructuring, which aimed to reform the Soviet system and promote transparency and economic development. Gorbachev's policies inspired hope for change among the people of East Germany and emboldened those seeking greater freedoms. As the pressure mounted, the East German government faced a difficult choice: to use force to suppress the protests or to pursue a more conciliatory approach. The events leading to the fall of the Berlin Wall demonstrate the power of popular movements, the yearning for freedom, and the changing political landscape of the late 80s. Bureaucratic Accident. On the evening of November 9th, a press conference was held by Günter Schabowski, a member of the Politburo of the Socialist Unity Party, which was the ruling party of East Germany. The Berlin Wall coming down was not the intended result of the press conference, but rather a consequence of a bureaucratic mistake that led to a series of unexpected events. The press conference was initially called to announce new travel regulations aimed at easing restrictions for East German citizens, but the chain of events that unfolded was a result of miscommunication and a lack of clarity surrounding the implementation of these regulations. During the press conference, Schabowski was handed a note with the new travel regulations, which stated they were to be implemented the following day. However, during the conference, when asked about the effective date of the regulations, Schabowski mistakenly stated they would come into effect, quote, immediately without delay. This statement created confusion and excitement among the East German population, who interpreted it as an immediate opening of the borders. The announcement by Schabowski, though unintended, spread rapidly through the media, capturing the attention of people across East Germany. News of the apparent opening of the border spread like wildfire, leading to crowds gathering at the checkpoints and border crossings of the Berlin Wall, eager to cross over to West Berlin. The border guards, caught off guard by the unexpected turn of events, sought guidance from their superiors, who were also unclear about how to proceed. As the crowds grew and the pressure intensified, the guards eventually made the decision to open the checkpoints, allowing people to pass freely. The events of that evening unfolded rapidly, driven by the miscommunication and the spontaneous actions of the border guards. The opening of the Berlin Wall was not part of a carefully planned strategy, but a bureaucratic mistake that ultimately led to the collapse of the barrier that had divided the city for almost 3 decades. The unintended consequence of the press conference and the subsequent opening of the Berlin Wall transformed the political landscape and shaped the course of history. The wall falls. The day of the falling of the Berlin Wall, November 9, 1989, was a historic and monumentous occasion that brought a wave of joy, celebration, and optimism not only in Germany but around the world. It marked the end of an era of division and symbolized the reunification of a divided country. As the news spread that the East German government had announced citizens could freely cross the border, thousands of people gathered at various checkpoints. The atmosphere was anticipation and disbelief. These checkpoints, once heavily guarded and fortified, now became centers of unity and liberation. As the barriers were lifted, people began to stream through, hugging and cheering with tears of joy. Families and friends, separated for decades, were finally reunited. East Germans flooded into West Berlin, and West Berliners ventured into the eastern part of the city, embracing one another, sharing stories, and expressing their shared hopes for a brighter future. Crowds converged at the iconic Brandenburg Gate, a powerful symbol of the divided city, which had been off-limits for so long. The scene was jubilant, with people climbing the wall, chanting slogans of unity, and celebrating the newfound freedom. The immediate aftermath brought about a period of significant change and transformation. East and West Germans began the process of reconnecting on a personal and societal level. The process of reunification was complex and posed significant economic and social challenges. The disparities between the two sides of Berlin and the country as a whole became evident, with East Germany struggling to adapt to the market economy and integration into the Western democratic system. But despite the challenges, the spirit of unity and determination prevailed. Now it's time to hear from you. Did you know the wall falling was essentially the immediate result of a bureaucratic accident? Let us know in the comments section below.